What's poppin', y'all? One of the rappers that's actually got me excited this year for the way that they've been moving, super pause on that, is none other than 49-year-old Jim Jones. And this next story also almost had me falling out of my chair. And this is when Jim Jones ran into Akademiks at the Newark, New Jersey Youngboy show, Youngboy tour date. And it's more so Akademiks ran into Jim Jones because he was looking for him. But I'm going to play you guys a couple of clips and we're going to go through this story, which is a bit unbelievable.
I'm like, oh, shit. I even went in front of my security. I'm like, oh, shit, let me go tap it with Birdman real quick. We about to watch the show. As soon as I walk down, I see Jim Jones. Now, I'm going to keep it a being with y'all. And again, I'm only speaking from my perspective. And y'all know, like, when I be telling these stories, I don't never be hyping nothing, right? Like, I think I'm pretty fair. I was walking quickly to get to Birdman, but right behind Birdman was Jim Jones. Jim Jones had brought his mom there. I didn't even realize he brought his mom. Like, Mama Jones, he brought his mom. So I'm walking mad quickly. But I ain't gonna lie to you, I think the way Jim seen it was like I'm walking up on him. I swear. Like, cause I'm walking mad quick. And so I see Birdman and I see Jim Jones. And I'm like, oh, it's Jim, what up? Now let me tell you the history with me and Jim. I don't know if in history. I did an interview with Kanye West. Kanye West said he gave Jim Jones $2 million and he was mad that Jim Jones couldn't make him a PDF. Okay, that went viral. Jim was trying to get some buzz at the time. Jim, I don't know how, like, through an intermediary, hits me to say, yo, I want to do an interview responding to Ye. It never happened, but while I set it up, Jim says to me, yo, we should probably get on the phone because, I just want to make sure we good, right? That happens with mad artists, Chad. Like, sometimes the artists want to talk to you before getting on set with you because they don't know if you about to just ask them some federal shit or whatever. So that's valid with me. It's all cool. So that's the last thing I know about anything with me and Jim Jones.
I don't think Jim Jones was all the way wrong because Akademiks talks about the situation. If you guys remember, this was the time, and I talked about this too. I said, Ye was mad at Jim Jones because Jim Jones facilitated a deal in which a crypto-related group, company, whatever, some people that wanted to launch something, they said that they would pay Jim Jones $2 million just to put him in contact with them. And Jim Jones allegedly did that. He got his 2 M's off of that. And Ye felt betrayed by that. Number one, he's like, this guy's using me to make money. And not only is he making money off my back, but I'm giving him a lot of opportunities. I'm blowing him up. For example, everybody's like, how is Jim Jones around Ye? And Ye is a fan of Jim, also Dipset. So Ye did it really just out of love. And he felt the type of way about it. Also said, that's when the interview came out where he's like, this guy wouldn't even make me a PDF. Where it's like, dog, if you're with Ye, and I think this is a bit of an age thing. So I think Jim Jones, not only is he a cocky New Yorker, a cocky Harlem New Yorker, but he's older than Ye. He's looking at Ye like, I remember when you were first getting into this game. And it's not that Jim Jones was ever a more respected artist than Ye, but he's looking at him like, I'm 50 years old, 49, whatever you want to call it. Not only are you younger than me, you were younger than me in the game. I remember when you were first coming up, you were like a baby to me, and you're like yelling out commands at me to make you a PDF. No, I don't know how to make a PDF. And I don't remember what interview he did that platform or what platform he did that interview on when he went and talked about that, but he pretty much said he just didn't want to do a PDF. I think it was Nori Drink Champs. But around this time, if he's hollering at Akademiks, and Akademiks, number one, does not do the interview with him, and then number two, he's like, I want us to at least get on the phone, and neither of those things happen, I understand Jim Jones feeling a type of way if Akademiks continues to talk about him after that. Because he's thinking like, I understand, like, well, I don't know if he's thinking that he understands, but I understand that messages can get lost, people are busy, but every time that Joe Budden, oh my goodness, that's how you know Joe Budden's at the top of the game, because he just rolls off the tongue. But any time that Jim Jones comes up in the news cycle and Akademiks talks about him, which is quite frequently in the past several months, Jim Jones is probably thinking, well, you should hit me up at that point, or that should jog your memory that we need to chop it up. So this is already a shaky foundation. But then it gets into the point where he approaches Jim Jones. And I'm going to play you guys that clip right now.
So Now, so when I see Jim Jones, I'm like, oh, Jim, what up? And Jim what up back at me is a different type of what up. He's like, what up? And I'm like, whoa. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if it's how I walked up, because I walked up like OG3. Remember, you saw OG3 walked up with me? I walked up, but I wasn't. I was just walking quickly to get to Birdman. Whatever. So anyway, that happened. I'm like, damn. I'm like, first of all, I'm gonna give Jim his credit. Jim was the oldest YN in the building, but he was on YN timing. I'm gonna keep it a bean. I ain't no liar. Jim, I just Google his age. Jim 49. Jim was the oldest YN up in the building there, but he was on YN timing. You feel what I'm saying? Like, you could tell. Jim, and I said to myself, I said, maybe it's because of Young Boy concert. Everybody a little bit aggressive here. So I go over to say, yo, Jim, we gotta get up and we gotta go do the interview. That's what I'm like, we gotta go do the interview. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I don't know if it's because Young Boy was on stage. Jim Jones turned to a YN on me. I swear. Jim Jones was like, yo, hold on, let me holler at you, man. Let me holler at you. And you know, niggas just start to be a little bit more fidget. I'm like, is he okay now? Jim is like, yo, listen, man, I gotta talk to you. I'm like, all right, what up, what's good? He's like, yo. Now, he was taking a second to kind of get out his point, but this was his point. And I was trying to, like, do the whole quoting thing, but he kept asking questions like, yo, do y'all think y'all do online is cool? So I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm kind of confused, honestly. I'm legit confused. And I know some people are going to be like, no, accurate, playing dumb, but I'm kind of confused because I'm also trying to figure out what it could be, right? And I didn't get too much info out of him, but he mentioned 6ix9ine. He said, whatever 6ix9ine. Then he's like, yo, y'all gotta know, it ain't safe when niggas is playing with me like that. And I'm thinking about, I'm like, what the do I?
And that is where whatever reasoning I had tried to come up with for Jim Jones falls apart, because Akademiks comes up to Jim Jones. He's like, yo, Jim, we got to get up with that interview. I thought that Jim Jones would be on some, man, stop talking about that damn interview. I hit you up about that when it was time to do that, and now you're trying to hit me up back on the back end. I said we would chop it up on the phone. You said that's cool. You stopped replying to me, and then you kept talking about me in the media, and then now you want to come up on some fake stuff, because this is what these industry people do. They talk about like, yo, we got to go do that thing, and you're like looking at them straight in the face like, you're really going to stone cold lie to me like that with that expression on your face? You know we're not going to do that thing. Like, just don't even bring it up. It's chill. It is what it is. But that wasn't the case here. Jim Jones is like, yo, what you've been saying on the internet. And this is where it's difficult for Akademiks, because like, wait, what did I say about Jim Jones? Like, Akademiks has what? 5 to 10, and on a low end, 5 to 10 rappers that he talks about in short segments, some longer segments than others. We know Jim Jones segments are a bit shorter. So what could he have possibly said about Jim Jones where he's talking about like, yo, you think it's okay to talk like that? So Jim Jones isn't even bringing up a situation, but he expects Akademiks to know the situation. And I think when a rapper's going to be upset with somebody like this, they need to have a file, like a folder, save a bookmark folder. You got to get Twitter Premium or whatever it costs, Twitter Blue, whatever it is. Jim Jones can afford it. He's really into the game right now. So he's got to have a bookmark folder of each person that when he addresses them based on something that they said on the internet, he can just present it and be like, yo, look at this clip right here. This is what you were talking on the internet, as opposed to expecting him to know off the top of his head. Like, the guy is not an encyclopedia. He doesn't got that SpongeBob brain where they're looking around, or that episode of SpongeBob where they're looking around his brain and they've got all the files and everything stored away neatly until it eventually lights on fire towards the end and they're not able to retrieve any of the memories. So at this point, Akademiks is understandably perplexed. Also, shout out to Jim Jones for bringing his mom to a Youngboy concert. You know Youngboy concert gets rowdy. You know Youngboy concert gets crazy. Jim is like, what, 49, 50? Well, he is 49, turning 50. And that means his mom's got to be at least, 70? Maybe late 60s, if that. If she was very young when she had him. I don't even know if that, like, harms your ears or anything like that. But I do like that he's close to his mom like that. You don't see that very often, especially bringing her to a concert when she's that old. So shout out to Jim Jones for that. But this continues. Akademiks is trying to come up with what the 6ix9ine situation has to do, because he probably realized it wasn't just him. And he's been cool with 6ix9ine since 2017, 2018. So it's not like his relationship with 6ix9ine is something new. And of course, he doesn't like 6ix9ine. That is, Jim Jones doesn't like 6ix9ine because of their whole blood thing. So I'm gonna play you guys that clip right now.
I kept trying to ask him. I said, "What me and 6ix9ine got to do with you, or what I got to do with if you and 6ix9ine got something?" Now, granted, Chad, I keep telling you, rappers are the best at, if they can't find the person they don't like, someone else inherits. So it's like Dave Free see me, and Dave Free saying, "Yo, well, I'll never see Drake ever in life, so let me tell you why I'm mad at Drake." Okay, cool. I guess Jim Jones is like, he's mad at 6ix9ine? And I was thinking, I'm like, yo, is he mad at, like, how is he mad at 6ix9ine and coming to me? Y'all two were 9 Trey Bloods. I was never a 9 Trey Blood, and I don't want to be one. If y'all got a problem, and here's the thing, I was thinking about their issue a little bit more. When 6ix9ine was a 9 Trey Blood, Jim knew about it before everybody got locked up. He could have prevented this by trying to do whatever he had to do then. 6ix9ine gets locked up with some of the 9 Trey dudes, tells on the 9 Trey dudes, and then afterwards, 6ix9ine is still clowning because 6ix9ine like wearing that rat sleeve. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't care. But anyway, that happened. I was trying to see, like, because usually me, I'm one of them people. I talk, like, I have that conversation. I know some of y'all, like, again, after that handshake and even like that energy, I could have just said, I'm gonna just leave him over. I walked up. I thought we could have a conversation. He just wasn't trying to have a conversation. So he was just like, "Yo, man, I ain't trying to have no conversation. I ain't trying to have no conversation." He's like, "Listen, man, just enjoy the show. Just enjoy the show. Just enjoy the show." And I'm like, okay. Then he's like, "Yo," he said something like, "Yo, and if anybody got a problem with me, they can let me know." I'm like, all right.
I think the whole thing with Jim Jones having potentially done something to 6ix9ine before they all got locked up, it seemed like on the call that they were having together about super violating him, that was a part of the plan, but they all just got picked up by the feds because they had been watching them for so long. And he hadn't gotten picked up by the feds. And that's also something that Whack 100, who is very tight with Akademiks, has talks about concerning Jim Jones, saying that he's working, which I don't really know. I don't really like to get too much into that. But I do think it's unfair because when 6ix9ine was in 9 Trey, Jim Jones probably told them, like, "Yo, are y'all sure about this?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, we're sure about it." And he's like, "All right, whatever." And he was making the money. Rapper Jim Jones wasn't co-signing 6ix9ine, so it's not like he was friends with 6ix9ine, co-signing 6ix9ine, and then everything switched up. He always just kept his distance. So it makes sense that when things transpired the way that they did, then he feels a certain type of way, especially how 6ix9ine kept talking about him afterwards. And I don't think Jim Jones handled this too poorly, because Akademiks said, like, yo, he was clearly frustrated, upset, and didn't want to talk. He's like, yo, just enjoy the show. He didn't try to get aggressive with him. He didn't try to get up in his face. He didn't try to record him, which is something that Dave Free and their team at TDE did, because what Akademiks is talking about, Dave Free was upset with what Drake said about Kendrick Lamar. This was when the tour was going on, and Akademiks flew out to Detroit to go see the show. He gets pulled up on by Dave Free and some people from TDE, and they're recording everything, and they're recording the conversation. Akademiks is the first one to hop back home, and after that happens, he just lays everything out. He's like, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what happened. This is what happened, A, B, C, D. Dave Free is in front of me, nearly in tears. He's upset about how things transpired, and then Akademiks is looking at him like, yo, y'all won the beef. How is your reaction like somebody that lost? And they got to the end of the conversation where they admitted that they were just upset at Drake. They couldn't get up with Drake, so they decided to come at Akademiks, which is like the guy's just doing his job. Now, he is, of course, on Drake's side, but he's still doing his job nevertheless, still showed up to the Kendrick Lamar concert to just give his own review of it, his own take of it. And I think they approached him a lot more aggressively than Jim Jones. It just seemed like Jim Jones was not in the mood to have a conversation with Akademiks and just told them, like, yo, man, like, let's enjoy the show. And he was probably aggressive about it because if Akademiks kept pressing the situation, he probably, I wouldn't say he would have gotten violent, because I don't think Jim Jones is, it's not that Jim Jones is not dumb. He just doesn't see a benefit into getting into that situation, but maybe he can't control his anger when it gets to that point. Who knows? But I think Jim Jones handled this as respectfully as possible, but I do think Akademiks just gets left with his shrug in his shoulders like, yo, what did I do to that man? And Akademiks handled it quite well too. Like, this was his emotions towards the end. I'm playing you guys that clip right now.
Jim was on his YN energy, man. I'm hoping he was just in a, maybe an upset frame of mind for that time, but I don't know. Then everybody else tells me, they're like, I ain't gonna lie to you, that's exactly how Jim is. He's usually pretty angry. So, whatever. The only thing that I could really think about, obviously 6ix9ine's been saying whatever about Jim Jones, right? They're both in a gang, right? If Jim Jones says something about 6ix9ine, I'm posting it. If 6ix9ine says something about Jim Jones, I'm posting that too. Like, that is what it is. I was thinking maybe it was this clip. Like, I was thinking it was this clip. I think we posted it. Let me see if I can find it. I think it was the clip where 6ix9ine did the podcast with Charleston White and Steiny, and he talked about Mel Matrix, right? Because, like, again, he wouldn't like tell me exactly what it is, but I felt like it was over some 9 Trey blood. That's what I'm saying. Jim Jones is still moving around like a YN, bro.
I don't know all the way if it was that. If it was that, then it was that compounded on top of the fact that he never linked up with Jim Jones. And I think this is a good story for Jim to be spread around. It doesn't make Akademiks look goofy. It doesn't make Jim Jones necessarily look goofy. Jim Jones, like I said, he had a good freestyle on the radio, a radio show that Constantine was hosting on his Mafia-thon 3. He's been in the mix. He's been dropping music. He's been talking his trash. And of course, there are moments where he's saying he's bigger than Nas, and then he switches that up. But that's all creating conversation around him. And he's active and he's dropping music. And really, I'm about to check out. I'm this close. Like, the next Jim Jones thing that happens, it's going to push me over the edge to actually check out his music. So it means what he's doing is working, because the people that are into Jim Jones music, they're for sure checking it out when they see everything that he's been up to. And he's working hard. Like, who do you know that's almost 50 that's actually still rapping well, or rapping better than they were previously? And on top of that is just putting in as much effort into getting popping as Jim Jones is right now. You don't see that. Now, you may say you don't see that because all of those rappers put in a ton of effort in their 20s and 30s, and they made enough money in the rap game and perhaps like parlayed that into other things, and they just rap for fun. Like, let's say Snoop Dogg, who he doesn't care about making music from rap. He doesn't care about being the most popular rapper as in music. He's just concerned about other things. And that's a fair judgment to make as well. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.